What happens when the most arrogant millionaire wagers his fortune on a bet to conquer a woman, only to discover she's playing a far deeper game? And what if her simple sincerity shatters his meticulously crafted world? Before we delve into this gripping tale of deception, redemption, and unexpected love, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments if you believe money can buy anything but true happiness. Liam adjusted the knot of his designer tie, observing his reflection in the impeccable glass of his penthouse window. At 35, he was the epitome of success. Custom-tailored suits, luxury cars, and an endless list of romantic conquests that were the talk of every exclusive circle in the city. Tonight, however, something different was at stake. A bet that, to him, was nothing more than an insignificant joke, but one that was about to change his life in ways he never imagined. In the main salon of the city's most exclusive private club, Liam met with his friends, a group of men who shared his same ostentatious and superficial lifestyle. Champagne glasses bubbled in their hands as laughter echoed in the air, thick with arrogance. "So, do you accept the challenge or not?" Arthur, his best friend, asked, raising an eyebrow with a sarcastic grin. Liam took a slow sip from his glass before responding, enjoying the suspense his silence created. "What's at stake?" he finally asked, feigning disinterest. Arthur leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "Alara, that woman who works at the Grand Cafe in the building. You've seen her, right?" He chuckled. "Well, let's just say she's not your usual type." The bet was simple. Liam had to conquer her and marry her in 3 months. The group erupted in laughter. For them, the idea of Liam, the city's most coveted bachelor, marrying a woman who didn't meet his impossibly high standards of beauty was absurd, and therefore endlessly amusing. But Liam wasn't intimidated by their laughter. In his mind, he was already plotting his strategy. "And what do I win if I succeed?" he asked, leaning back in his chair with an arrogant smile. $1 million, Arthur responded without hesitation. "And, of course, the eternal respect of this group." Liam smiled. For him, it wasn't the money that mattered. It was the challenge. The idea of proving he could conquer anyone, no matter who they were, fueled his colossal ego. "Deal," he said, extending his hand towards Arthur to seal the bet. Laughter and toasts filled the salon, but no one noticed the furtive gaze of a waitress who had overheard every single word. The next day, Liam put his plan into motion. He visited the Grand Cafe where Alara worked, a woman with a simple, natural beauty, but one whom the superficial society Liam inhabited had never deemed worthy of attention. Alara greeted him with a timid smile, clearly surprised by his presence. "An Americano, please," Liam requested, his voice dripping with practiced charm and confidence. While waiting for his order, he observed her carefully. Alara wore a simple uniform that subtly highlighted her curves, and an expression of weariness that couldn't quite dim the quiet sparkle in her eyes. "Anything else?" she asked, handing him the coffee. "Yes, your name?" Liam responded with a charming smile that had disarmed countless women before her. "Alara," she said, slightly bewildered. "Charmed, Alara. I'm Liam. I don't think I've ever seen you around here, or am I mistaken?" Alara let out a nervous laugh. "I've worked here for years. Maybe it's just the first time you've noticed." Liam smiled, feigning embarrassment. "You're absolutely right. Would you forgive me if I try to correct that mistake?" Alara, accustomed to indifferent customers, couldn't help but feel a flicker of flattery at Liam's intense attention. But even as he continued his carefully calculated performance, she began to notice something in his eyes, something that didn't quite align with his words. Days later, as Liam returned to the cafe to reinforce his plan, Alara accidentally overheard a conversation between him and one of his friends in the building's lobby. "How's the bet going? Got her in your pocket yet?" Arthur's mocking tone echoed. Liam smiled smugly. "It's only a matter of time. Women like her are easy to impress. They just need a little attention and a few pretty words." Alara, standing just out of sight, felt her world stop. Liam's words were a brutal slap, a humiliation she didn't deserve. But instead of fleeing or confronting him then and there, she decided on something unexpected. She would play her own game. She took a deep breath, composed herself, and returned to work as if nothing had happened. If Liam thought he could manipulate her, he would soon discover he had profoundly underestimated the wrong person. What do you think will be Alara's first move in her plan to turn the tables on Liam? And do you believe he will ever truly recognize her strength beyond the bet? Share your predictions in the comments below. If this story of defiance and a hidden agenda has you captivated, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. Alara made sure to maintain her composure as she served tables that afternoon. The revelation of the bet between Liam and his friends still resonated in her mind, a raw, burning ember, but she couldn't afford to lose control. She knew that confronting him directly at that moment wouldn't give her the satisfaction she craved. If Liam wanted to play games with her, she could certainly play along. But this time it would be on her own terms. When Liam returned to the cafe the next day, carrying a bouquet of vibrant flowers, the curious glances from customers and the murmurs from the staff didn't seem to affect him in the slightest. He approached the counter with his usual confident smile and leaned over it. "Alara, these are for you," he said, extending the bouquet with an overflowing sense of self-assurance. Alara raised an eyebrow, studying him for a moment before accepting the flowers. "Thank you, Liam. What's all this? Did you do something wrong? And these are your apologies?" Liam let out a hearty laugh, as if the idea were absurd. "Of course not. I just wanted to brighten your day. Sometimes the small surprises are the best." "How incredibly considerate of you," she replied, her tone barely concealing her sarcasm. "Let me guess. Is this something you do with all women?" Liam seemed slightly taken aback by her response, but he quickly regained his composure. "Not all women are like you, Alara. You're special, and I want you to know it." Alara smiled, but not because she was convinced. Now that she knew about the bet, every word Liam spoke was like a puzzle she had to meticulously decipher. However, instead of confronting him, she decided to play along. She wanted to see just how far he would take his elaborate charade. "How flattering," she said, holding the flowers as if they were a hard-won trophy. "Well, if you want to invite me out, you'll have to wait until after my shift." Liam hadn't expected her to accept so quickly, but the triumphant smile on his face betrayed him. "Perfect. I'll pick you up at 8. When night fell, Alara made sure to present herself impeccably. Not because she wanted to impress Liam, but because she wanted him to believe she was falling into his trap. She wore a simple black dress that subtly enhanced her figure, and her hair, though loose, had a natural sheen that couldn't be ignored. When Liam arrived in his luxurious sports car, he couldn't help but gaze at her with genuine admiration. "Wow, you look incredible," he said, opening the car door for her. "Thank you," Alara responded with a smile that concealed her true purpose. "Where are we going?" "I want tonight to be special, so I chose a place I'm sure you'll love," Liam said as he started the car. The restaurant was one of the city's most exclusive, with elegant decor and an intimate atmosphere designed to impress. Liam, accustomed to such places, moved with effortless confidence, while Alara observed every detail, wondering just how much he was willing to spend to maintain the facade. During dinner, Liam continued his performance, talking about his life, his travels, and his businesses, always sure to include lavish compliments about how unique he found Alara. But she, instead of being dazzled, maintained a relaxed posture, subtly asking questions that tested his sincerity. "Tell me, Liam," she said, playfully toying with her wine glass. "With everything you have, do you ever feel empty?" The question caught him by surprise. For an instant, Liam didn't know how to respond. "Well, I suppose everyone has moments where they feel something's missing, but I don't think that's my case. I've worked hard for what I have, and I'm quite satisfied." "Satisfied? Really?" she pressed, leaning slightly towards him. "Because sometimes it seems like people who have everything are always searching for something more. Don't you think?" Liam frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the turn in the conversation. "I think life is about enjoying what you have and moving forward, and tonight, I'm enjoying being here with you." Alara smiled, but deep down, She knew Liam was evading the question. For her, that evasion only confirmed what she already suspected. Behind his facade of security and success, there was something hollow, something that, perhaps, even he didn't understand. When dinner ended, Liam drove her home. But before Alara could step out of the car, he took her hand. "Alara, tonight was incredible. I can't wait to see you again." "Me neither," she responded with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "But we'll see if you can keep up." As Alara entered her apartment, she closed the door behind her and let out a long sigh. Everything about that night had been a performance, but she couldn't deny there was something more to Liam, something that made him more complicated than he appeared at first glance. However, that didn't change anything. She was determined to go ahead with her plan. If he wanted to play, he would have to be prepared to lose, and this time she wouldn't be the one getting hurt. What do you think is Alara's biggest challenge in maintaining her facade? And how will Liam's unexpected complexity change her perception of him? Share your predictions in the comments below. If this story of hidden motives and growing intrigue has captivated you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. Alara made sure to maintain her composure as she served tables that afternoon. The revelation of the bet between Liam and his friends still resonated in her mind, a raw, burning ember, but she couldn't afford to lose control. She knew that confronting him directly at that moment wouldn't give her the satisfaction she sought. If Liam wanted to play games with her, she could certainly play along. But this time it would be on her own terms. When Liam returned to the Grand Café the next day, he carried a vibrant bouquet of flowers. The curious glances from customers and the murmurs from the staff didn't seem to affect him in the slightest. He approached the counter with his usual confident smile and leaned over it. "Alara, these are for you," he said, extending the bouquet with an overflowing sense of self-assurance. Alara raised an eyebrow, studying him for a moment before accepting the flowers. "Thank you, Liam. What's all this? Did you do something wrong? And these are your apologies?" Liam let out a hearty laugh, as if the idea were absurd. "Of course not. I just wanted to brighten your day. Sometimes the small surprises are the best." "How incredibly considerate of you," she replied, her tone barely concealing her sarcasm. "Let me guess. Is this something you do with all women?" Liam seemed slightly taken aback by her response, but he quickly regained his composure. "Not all women are like you, Alara. You're special, and I want you to know it." Alara smiled, but not because she was convinced. Now that she knew about the bet, every word Liam spoke was like a puzzle she had to meticulously decipher. However, instead of confronting him, she decided to play along. She wanted to see just how far he would take his elaborate charade. "How flattering," she said, holding the flowers as if they were a hard-won trophy. "Well, if you want to invite me out, you'll have to wait until after my shift." Liam hadn't expected her to accept so quickly, but the triumphant smile on his face betrayed him. "Perfect. I'll pick you up at 8. When night fell, Alara made sure to present herself impeccably. Not because she wanted to impress Liam, but because she wanted him to believe she was falling into his trap. She wore a simple black dress that subtly enhanced her figure, and her hair, though loose, had a natural sheen that couldn't be ignored. When Liam arrived in his luxurious sports car, he couldn't help but gaze at her with genuine admiration. "Wow, you look incredible," he said, opening the car door for her. "Thank you," Alara responded with a smile that concealed her true purpose. "Where are we going?" "I want tonight to be special, so I chose a place I'm sure you'll love," Liam said as he started the car. "Don't worry, it's not some expensive restaurant or anything like that. I want tonight to be about truly getting to know each other, without masks." The restaurant was one of the city's most exclusive, with elegant decor and an intimate atmosphere designed to impress. Liam, accustomed to such places, moved with effortless confidence, while Alara observed every detail, wondering just how much he was willing to spend to maintain the facade. During dinner, Liam continued his performance, talking about his life, his travels, and his businesses, always making sure to include elaborate compliments about how unique he found Alara. But she, instead of being dazzled, maintained a relaxed posture, subtly asking questions that tested his sincerity. "Tell me, Liam," she said, playfully toying with her wine glass. "With all you have, do you ever feel empty?" The question caught him by surprise. For an instant, Liam didn't know what to answer. "Well, I suppose everyone has moments where they feel something's missing, but I don't think that's my case. I've worked hard for what I have, and I'm quite satisfied." "Satisfied? Really?" she pressed, leaning slightly towards him, her gaze piercing. "Because sometimes it seems like people who have everything are always searching for something more. Don't you think?" Liam frowned, clearly uncomfortable with the turn in the conversation. "I think life is about enjoying what you have and moving forward, and tonight, I'm enjoying being here with you." Alara smiled, but deep down, she knew Liam was evading the question. For her, that evasion only confirmed what she already suspected. Behind his facade of security and success, there was something hollow, something that, perhaps, even he didn't understand. When dinner ended, Liam drove her home. But before Alara could step out of the car, he took her hand. "Alara, tonight was incredible. I can't wait to see you again." "Me neither," she responded with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "But we'll see if you can keep up." As Alara entered her apartment, she closed the door behind her and let out a long sigh. Everything about that night had been a performance, but she couldn't deny there was something more to Liam, something that made him more complicated than he appeared at first glance. However, that didn't change anything. She was determined to go ahead with her plan. If he wanted to play, he would have to be prepared to lose, and this time she wouldn't be the one getting hurt. What do you think is Alara's biggest challenge in maintaining her facade? And how will Liam's unexpected complexity change her perception of him? Share your predictions in the comments below. If this story of hidden motives and growing intrigue has captivated you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. The days that followed were filled with Liam's relentless attentions. Flowers, calls, carefully calculated messages, and more visits to the Grand Cafe. Alara, meanwhile, played her part with masterful precision. She knew exactly how to handle each of Liam's moves, responding with a strategic mix of polite interest and a slight distance that kept him perpetually intrigued. To him, it seemed he was slowly gaining her trust, but for Alara, each interaction was a new piece she placed on her meticulously planned chessboard. One afternoon, Liam appeared at the cafe with a gesture that left everyone open-mouthed. He had reserved a gleaming limousine to take her to an event. Alara arched an eyebrow, stifling a sarcastic smile. "All this for a simple outing? Don't you think it's a bit excessive?" Liam, with his practiced charm, responded, "Alara, you deserve more than the ordinary. I want tonight to be special." She nodded, feigning deep impression, and accepted the invitation. When they stepped into the limousine, Liam observed her from the corner of his eye, attempting to decipher her thoughts. Alara, for her part, simply enjoyed the opulent spectacle. She knew every gesture of his was laden with intent, but she still couldn't decipher if his entire performance was a farce, or if, in some hidden corner of his heart, there was a flicker of sincerity. The event turned out to be a lavish charity gala organized by one of Liam's companies. It was a place of dazzling opulence, with crystal chandeliers casting glittering light, tables draped in silk linens, and a classical orchestra playing in the background. For a moment, Alara felt out of place, a simple cafe worker amidst such extravagance, but she refused to let it intimidate her. She adjusted her posture, lifted her head, and decided to walk with unshakable confidence. If Liam wanted to show her off as a trophy, she would ensure she was a trophy that could not be ignored. "Alara, I'd like to introduce you to some important partners," Liam said, approaching a group of impeccably suited men. "She's Alara, my companion tonight." The men greeted her with polite courtesy, but she didn't miss the subtle glances exchanged between them. She knew Liam hadn't brought a typical model for an event like this, and that had sparked curiosity, perhaps even a touch of veiled disdain. However, Alara remained firm, responding with effortless elegance to each comment, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her falter. What profound effect do you think Alara's unexpected poise has on Liam? And what does it truly mean to belong in a world that once rejected you? Share your insights in the comments below. If this story of quiet defiance and social maneuvering is captivating you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. Throughout the evening, Liam seemed increasingly disconcerted. He had expected Alara to be nervous, perhaps even overwhelmed, but she handled everything with an unexpected grace that utterly disarmed him. In a rare moment when they were alone, he confessed, "You're surprising me. I thought these types of events weren't your style." Alara smiled softly. "Liam, there are many things you still don't know about me. Perhaps you should take the time to discover them if you're truly interested." The comment left Liam speechless. For the first time, he felt like he was losing control of the situation. He had meticulously planned every detail of that night, thinking that simply impressing her would be enough. But now he wasn't so sure. Something about Alara challenged him, disarmed him in a way no one ever had. The evening continued with a formal dance. Liam invited her onto the dance floor, and as he held her in an elegant waltz, he couldn't help but gaze intently at her. "I don't know how to explain it," he murmured, his voice low. "But there's something about you that makes me feel different. It's as if..." He paused, searching for the right words. "It's as if I'm seeing something I've never truly seen before." Alara looked at him with an enigmatic smile. "Perhaps that's because you've never taken the time to truly look at anyone, Liam. Perhaps you've always only seen what you wanted to see." Alara's words struck him harder than he expected. There was something painfully true in her observation, but Liam wasn't ready to admit it, not even to himself. Instead of responding, he decided to change the subject and simply enjoy the dance. When the gala ended, Liam drove her back home. On the way, the conversation was more relaxed, almost intimate. At times, Liam seemed to lower his guard, talking about his childhood and how he had learned never to show weakness. Alara listened intently, without interrupting, but she knew she shouldn't let herself be carried away by the moment. She vividly remembered the conversation she had overheard in the lobby, the cold words that had revealed the truth behind his intentions. Upon arriving at her apartment, Alara looked directly into his eyes before saying goodbye. "Thank you for the night, Liam. It was interesting, to say the least." Liam, confused by her choice of words, responded with a nervous smile. "I hope to see you soon, Alara." She entered her apartment and closed the door behind her. As she slipped off her heels, she reflected on the night. She had seen a glimpse of humanity in Liam, a crack in his formidable armor, but it wasn't enough. She knew she had to stay strong and not let herself be deceived by those fleeting moments of vulnerability. He was playing his game, but she was playing hers too. The difference was that Alara was absolutely determined to win. The routine between Liam and Alara began to follow a predictable pattern. He, persistent and determined, sought any excuse to see her, whether at the Grand Café or outside of it. Alara, for her part, accepted his invitations strategically, always calculating her moves, searching for the opportune moment to unmask him. However, as the days passed, something unexpected began to happen. Liam seemed to change. One afternoon, Liam appeared at the Daily Grind Bistro with a book in his hand. Alara looked up from the counter, intrigued. It was an unusual detail for him, someone who typically spoke only of luxury cars and extravagant trips. "What's that?" she asked, raising an eyebrow as she served him a coffee. "A book I thought you might like," Liam responded, placing it on the counter. "I saw it in a shop, and it reminded me of you." Alara took the book cautiously. It was a collection of classical poems, something she never would have expected from him. She quickly flipped through the pages before looking at him with skepticism. "Since when do you read poetry?" Liam smiled, though his expression seemed a little uncomfortable. "I don't usually, but I thought maybe we should try to learn more about each other's interests." "Am I wrong?" The sincerity in his tone caught her by surprise. For a moment, Alara wondered if it was possible that Liam was truly lowering his facade. However, she quickly remembered the bet and decided not to let her guard down. "Thanks," she said with a faint smile, tucking the book under the counter. I'll read it when I have time. That same night, Liam invited her for a walk in the park. It was a simple suggestion, devoid of the ostentation that usually characterized him. Alara accepted, more out of curiosity than genuine interest. Upon arriving, she was surprised to see that Liam had brought a blanket and a thermos of coffee. I thought we could sit and talk, he explained as he spread the blanket on the grass. Alara sat down, observing him intently. Over the past few days, she had noticed subtle changes in his behavior, as if he were genuinely trying to prove something beyond his superficial exterior. But she couldn't let her guard down. She knew Liam was a master of manipulation, and she wasn't willing to become another name on his list. Why did you bring me here? She finally asked, breaking the silence. Liam leaned back on the blanket, gazing at the stars. Because I wanted to get away from everything for a while. With you, I feel like I can truly be myself, without all the pressure of expectations. Alara let out a faint laugh, a hint of bitterness in it. And who are you really, Liam? So far, all I've seen is someone used to getting what he wants, no matter the cost. The sincerity of her words disarmed him. For a moment, he seemed lost, as if he didn't know how to respond. Perhaps you're right, he admitted finally, his tone more honest than Alara had expected. I've spent so much time trying to be what others expect of me that I'm not sure who I really am. Alara observed him closely. For the first time, she saw a glimmer of genuine vulnerability in Liam, something that didn't seem rehearsed or calculated. However, she couldn't ignore the bet, that dark reminder that his original intentions had not been sincere. We all wear masks, Liam, she said finally, without looking away from him. But sooner or later, the truth always finds a way to come to light. Liam nodded, as if understanding the weight of her words. The conversation then drifted to lighter topics, and for a brief moment, Alara allowed the warmth of the night to envelop her. Although she maintained her guard, she couldn't deny there was something different about him, something that made her question her own intentions. Do you think Liam's vulnerability is genuine, or is it a new, more subtle manipulation tactic? And how will Alara reconcile the two versions of Liam she's seeing? Share your insights in the comments below. If this psychological dance of truth and deception is captivating you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. The next day, Alara decided to investigate Liam a little further. She used her free time to search online for information about his life and businesses. What she found was a mix of professional successes and rumors of scandals, but nothing that gave her clear clues about his true motivations. However, as she browsed, she found an article about his childhood, a brief account of how he had lost his mother at a young age and how that had deeply affected his relationships with others. Alara closed her laptop, feeling conflicted. On one hand, she couldn't forget the bet, nor the fact that Liam saw her as a simple challenge. On the other, she couldn't ignore the moments of vulnerability she had seen in him. It was as if two versions of Liam existed, the arrogant, superficial man, and the man who, perhaps, genuinely wished to change. That afternoon, Liam visited her again at the bistro. This time, he didn't carry flowers or books, just a quiet smile. Alara, can I invite you to dinner tonight? Something simple, nothing extravagant. Alara looked at him for a moment, evaluating his proposal. Finally, she nodded. All right, but with one condition. No lies. Liam seemed surprised by her response, but quickly regained his composure. Promised, he said, though deep down, he wasn't sure he could truly keep it. That night, as she prepared for dinner, Alara looked at herself in the mirror, wondering if she was making a mistake. But one thing was certain. If Liam had a plan, she was ready to face it. And this time, she wouldn't be the one losing. Liam arrived promptly to pick up Alara that night. He had shed his usual ostentatious style, opting instead for casual yet well-tailored clothes, and he drove a discreet, dark car. Alara noticed the change instantly, but she decided to make no comment, simply sliding into the passenger seat. Where are we going? She asked, adjusting her seatbelt. To a special place, Liam responded with a tranquil smile. Don't worry. It's not an expensive restaurant or anything like that. I want tonight to be about truly getting to know each other, without masks. Alara arched an eyebrow, a flicker of skepticism in her eyes, but she remained silent. During the drive, Liam attempted to engage her in light conversation, asking about her tastes, her family, and her dreams. Alara responded carefully, always measuring her words, knowing that each question might be part of his grand plan to win her trust. Finally, they arrived at their destination, a small, family-owned restaurant hidden in a quiet corner of the city. The place was cozy, with wooden tables and warm lighting that made it feel instantly like home. Alara was surprised to see him choose such a modest spot. It didn't fit the image she had of him at all. "I hope you like it," Liam said as he opened the door for her. "I used to come here with my mother when I was a child." The mention of his mother took her by surprise. It wasn't common for Liam to speak of his past. Alara nodded and stepped inside, feeling, for the first time, that Liam was showing her a genuine part of himself. During dinner, Liam was more relaxed than she had ever seen him. He recounted anecdotes from his childhood, shared happy moments with his mother, and spoke of how, after losing her, he had built an emotional wall to protect himself. "I suppose I got used to thinking that if I didn't let anyone in, they couldn't hurt me," he confessed, gazing at his plate with a melancholic air. Alara observed him in silence, attempting to decipher if his words were sincere or merely part of his calculated strategy. She knew there was something authentic about Liam, but she couldn't ignore the fact that their relationship had begun with a cruel bet. "And now?" she finally asked, her voice low. "Do you still think keeping people at a distance is the best way to live?" Liam looked up, meeting her gaze. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice holding more honesty than Alara had expected. "But with you, I feel like I want to try a different way." His words resonated with Alara in an unexpected way. For weeks, she had meticulously planned to expose Liam, to confront him and humiliate him as he had tried to do to her. But now, seeing the raw vulnerability in his eyes, she wasn't sure how to proceed. Was it possible that he was truly changing, or was he simply an exceptional actor? When dinner ended, Liam insisted on taking her home. During the drive, the silence between them was no longer awkward. It was charged with unspoken thoughts. Alara felt torn between her deep-seated distrust and a small, persistent spark of hope that Liam might be better than he had initially appeared. Upon arriving at her apartment, Alara stepped out of the car, and before saying goodbye, she decided to confront him with something that had been on her mind for days. "Liam," she began, turning to face him, "why me? Why did you approach me in the first place?" The question caught him by surprise, but he quickly regained his composure. "Because you're different," he said, his voice soft. "I don't know how to explain it, but from the first moment I saw you, I felt there was something special about you." Alara looked at him intently, searching for any sign of falsehood in his words, but the sincerity in his voice and his expression disarmed her, if only for an instant. She knew Liam was capable of manipulating anyone, but this time, something in his tone seemed genuinely real. "I hope that's true," she responded finally, turning her back to him to enter the building. However, before closing the door, she turned once more. "Because if it's not Liam, all of this will end worse than you think." Liam's words hung in the air, and he remained in silence, watching her disappear into the building's interior. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure how to proceed. Alara made him question everything he thought he knew about himself, and that terrified him. That night, Alara sat on her sofa, holding the book of poems Liam had given her days earlier. She opened it slowly, reading verses that spoke of love, loss, and redemption. As the words resonated in her mind, she realized she was in the middle of a dangerous game, not only with Liam, but with herself. She knew she couldn't afford to lower her guard, but she was also beginning to understand that, perhaps, Liam wasn't the only one who was changing. And that was something that frightened her more than any bet. The days that followed were marked by an apparent calm between Liam and Alara. He continued to insist on seeing her, proposing simpler plans now, far from the initial extravagances. Park walks, quiet coffees, conversations about their lives. At times, it truly seemed that Liam had abandoned the game, genuinely attempting to build something real. But Alara knew she couldn't allow herself to be swayed by appearances. The bet remained an invisible weight, a dark truth that stood between them, and she would not, forget it. One afternoon, as Alara worked diligently at the Daily Grind Bistro, an unexpected visitor made her freeze. Arthur, one of Liam's friends, entered the cafe with a mocking smile. She recognized him instantly. He was the very one who had first proposed the infamous bet that night at the club. "Alara, right?" Arthur said, leaning against the counter, his gaze dripping with a familiar air of superiority. Alara felt her heart accelerate, but she refused to let her face betray her. "Yes, how can I help you?" she responded, her voice cool and steady. Arthur let out a short laugh before replying. "Just passing by. Fernando talks about you a lot lately." "Curious?" Alara remarked, raising an eyebrow, studying him. "I wasn't aware you were friends with Liam." "Friends is an understatement," Arthur smirked. "Let's just say I was the one who gave him the push to approach you, though I must admit, I'm surprised how far he's gone. Liam usually gets bored quickly, but it seems with you he's making quite an effort." Alara felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Although she already knew about the bet, hearing those words from Arthur felt like a fresh wound being opened. However, she forced herself to maintain her composure. "Well, perhaps he found something worthwhile," she responded, a smile that hid the storm raging within her. Arthur tilted his head, evaluating her. "Could be, but don't you find it strange? A man like Liam going after a woman like you? I mean, it's not something you see every day." The comment hit like a dagger, sharp and precise, but Alara didn't falter. "Perhaps it's because I'm not like the others," she said, looking him directly in the eyes. "And perhaps that's exactly what Liam needed, don't you think?" Arthur seemed surprised by her response, but before he could answer, Alara continued. "Now, if you're not going to order anything, I have work to do." Arthur let out a short laugh and raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. "You've got character, that's for sure. No wonder Liam's so interested." "Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, Alara. I'm sure we'll meet again." When Arthur left, Alara let out a long, shuddering sigh. The rage and humiliation she had contained during the conversation finally began to surface. She walked to the bathroom, looked at herself in the mirror, and took a deep breath to calm herself. "Don't let him intimidate you," she told herself, her reflection grim. "This isn't over." What do you think will be the immediate fallout from Arthur's cruel intervention? And how will Alara choose to expose Liam's true intentions? Share your raw emotions and predictions in the comments below. If the story of an elaborate scheme finally unraveling is gripping you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next thrilling chapter. That night, when Liam called to invite her to dinner, Alara accepted, but with a profoundly different intention. She was determined to confront him, to force him to face the truth. She knew she could no longer play the role of the naive, impressionable woman. When Liam arrived to pick her up, he immediately noticed that something in Alara had changed. Her gaze was colder, more calculating, her usual warmth replaced by a steely resolve. "Are you okay?" he asked, a hint of concern in his voice as he helped her into the car. "Perfectly," she responded, with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Dinner unfolded in a small, discreet restaurant. Liam attempted to keep the conversation light, asking about her tastes, her family, her dreams. But Alara offered only monosyllabic responses, letting the silence between them grow increasingly uncomfortable. Finally, Liam couldn't take it anymore. "Alara, what's wrong tonight? You seem different." She set her wine glass on the table and looked at him directly, her eyes piercing his. "Why don't you tell me, Liam? What's truly going on between us?" Liam frowned, disconcerted, visibly thrown off balance. "I don't understand what you're referring to." "Let me clarify then," Alara said, leaning slightly towards him, her voice low and cutting. "What's behind all this? How far are you willing to go to win your bet? Liam's face drained of all color. For a moment, it seemed that the words simply wouldn't leave his mouth. What? What are you saying? Alara let out a bitter laugh. Don't play innocent, Liam. I know about the bet. I heard everything from the beginning. Liam tried desperately to speak, but Alara interrupted him, her voice rising, filled with a raw, profound hurt. Did you think you could play with me, humiliate me, and I wouldn't notice? That I would fall into your trap like all the others? Alara, Liam began, his voice trembling, utterly broken. What, Liam? What are you going to say now? That all of this changed, that it's no longer about the bet? Do you truly believe I'll believe your lies after everything I've seen? Liam lowered his gaze, unable to meet her eyes, his arrogance utterly shattered. Alara watched him for a moment longer, waiting for a response that never came. Finally, she rose from the table and grabbed her purse. Enjoy your victory, Liam, she said coldly, her voice devoid of emotion. Because this is the last time you'll ever use me for one of your games. And with that, she walked out of the restaurant, leaving Liam alone, facing the crushing weight of his actions, and a profound emptiness that, for the first time, he had no idea how to fill. Liam remained seated at the restaurant table, frozen, unable to move. Alara's words resonated in his mind like an endless echo. He knew he had reached the point of no return. All his meticulously crafted plans, his arrogance, his cruel bet, they had led him precisely to this moment. Utterly alone, facing the abyss he had created with his own hands. After a few minutes, he paid the bill and left the restaurant. He drove aimlessly through the city, lost in a fog of regret. The city lights blurred past his windshield, but Liam barely noticed them. For the first time in his life, he had no answers, no meticulously laid out plan. The crushing weight of his guilt pressed down on him. How had he arrived at this point? The bet had been a stupid game, a trivial way to entertain himself and feed his insatiable ego. But somewhere along the way, everything had changed. Alara had changed everything. Her unwavering strength, her sharp intelligence, her uncanny ability to see through all his carefully constructed masks. She had made him feel truly seen, and that terrified him as much as it profoundly moved him. But now it was too late. Alara arrived at her apartment, her heart still racing. Although she had left the restaurant with her head held high, the confrontation with Liam had left a deep, searing scar within her. She closed the door, leaning against it, and let out a trembling sigh. She had dreamed of this moment, of facing him and exposing him, but the satisfaction she expected to feel never came. Instead, she felt strangely empty. She remembered the expression on Liam's face when she spoke of the bet. It wasn't arrogance, it wasn't indifference. It was shame. For a brief, fleeting moment, Alara had seen the real Liam, someone lost, someone who desperately wished he could undo what he had done. This doesn't change anything, she murmured to herself, placing her keys on the table. She sank onto the sofa, her gaze falling upon the book of poems Liam had given her days earlier. She picked it up, opened it, and let the pages fall open to a poem he had subtly underlined. True change is born when we face our shadows and learn to embrace them. Alara closed the book with a sigh. Although she wouldn't admit it, something deep inside her began to stir, a quiet surprise. She knew she had been honest in confronting Liam, but she also knew that honesty was not without its own profound pain. And no matter how much she tried to convince herself otherwise, a part of her secretly wished that Liam was something more than what he had shown her until now. And that thought, more than any bet, frightened her. What do you think is the significance of Liam finally seeing his own shame? And how will Alara's unexpected empathy shape her next steps? Share your raw emotions and predictions in the comments below. If this story of profound self-realization and lingering doubts is captivating you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the next part of their complicated journey. Liam spent the next few days engulfed in silence. He didn't respond to messages, ignored calls, and isolated himself from everyone. He even avoided Arthur and the rest of his friends, who were already beginning to wonder why he was no longer talking about the bet. One afternoon, unable to bear the inertia any longer, Liam decided to confront himself. He sat in his study, facing a framed photo of his mother that always sat on his desk. His mother had been the only person who truly knew him, the only one who had seen beyond his achievements and his carefully constructed facade. "Mama," he murmured, his voice cracking with raw emotion. "I ruined it. I ruined everything." The memory of his mother flooded him, and with it, the echo of her last words before she died. "Never forget that a person's true worth is not in what they have, but in what they give." Liam closed his eyes, allowing those words to penetrate the deepest part of his being. He realized he had spent his entire life building an image to protect himself from pain, but that very image had alienated him from everything that truly mattered. That night, Liam made a monumental decision. It didn't matter if Alara forgave him or not. He had to prove to her, and to himself, that he was capable of being a better man. Not for the bet, not for his shattered pride, but because he knew, deep in his soul, that it was the only right thing to do. 2 days after the painful confrontation at the restaurant, Alara was finishing her shift at the Daily Grind Bistro when Liam walked in. Everyone in the cafe turned, surprised by his presence, but he didn't seem to notice. His usual arrogance was gone, replaced by a quiet mixture of determination and profound humility. Alara saw him and felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She wanted to ignore him, but she couldn't tear her gaze away. Liam approached the counter and waited patiently until she was free. "What are you doing here, Liam?" she asked finally, her tone more weary than annoyed. "I need to talk to you," he responded, his voice calm, steady. "Just a few minutes, please." Alara looked at him intently, trying to decipher his intentions. Finally, she nodded and stepped out from behind the counter, leading him to a secluded table. Liam took a deep breath before speaking. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything. What I did was unforgivable, and I know that. But I also know that you'll never understand how much you've changed my life. That's why I'm here. Not to ask for your forgiveness, but to thank you." Alara looked at him, genuinely surprised. "Thank me? For what?" "For opening my eyes," Liam said with sincerity. "For showing me that my entire life I've been a coward, hiding behind my money and my pride. For making me realize that I want to be someone better. Not to win something, not to impress you, but because you taught me I could be more." The silence that followed was heavy, but not uncomfortable. Alara didn't know what to say. For the first time, Liam's words didn't sound calculated. They were raw, honest. Finally, Alara spoke. "That depends on you, Liam, not on me." Liam nodded, accepting her words. He knew he had a long road ahead, but for the first time he was willing to walk it. For her, but most of all for himself. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Alara. After the unexpected conversation with Liam, she had decided to maintain her distance, but her mind couldn't stop replaying every word he had said. There was something in his tone, in his gaze, that had utterly disconcerted her. He wasn't the arrogant, calculating Liam she had known. He was someone more vulnerable, almost unfamiliar. At the bistro, life continued as usual. Alara focused on her work, trying to distract herself, but every time someone mentioned Liam's name, and they did frequently, given that his visit had caused quite a stir, she felt a pang in her chest. She didn't want to admit it, but something in her had irrevocably changed. One afternoon, as she cleared tables after the busiest rush, she found a small card in her bag. It was a message from Liam. She had no idea how it had gotten there, but her curiosity compelled her to open it. "Alara, I don't want to interrupt your life, but there's something I need to show you. If you're willing, I'll be at the park where we walked that night at 8. I expect nothing, I just want you to see something." Alara sighed deeply. Part of her wanted to ignore the message, to continue with her life and definitively close that chapter. But another, more persistent part told her she had to go, if only to understand what Liam was truly searching for. When night fell, Alara found herself walking towards the park. The air was cool, and the lights from the street lamps cast a tranquil glow. There, sitting on one of the benches, was Liam. He wasn't wearing a suit, nor was there a luxury car parked nearby. He looked simply like an ordinary man. "I thought you wouldn't come," Liam said, rising when he saw her approach. "I still don't know why I'm here," Alara responded with sincerity, stopping a few feet from him. "I want you to see something," he said, gesturing towards a small portable projector he had set up in a corner of the park. On the makeshift screen, a video began to play. Alara crossed her arms, skeptical, but she didn't look away. What she saw left her utterly speechless. It was a video where Liam spoke directly to the camera, recording himself at different moments over the past few weeks. In the video, Liam confessed everything. The bet, his initial cruel intentions, and how, little by little, he had begun to question everything he believed. "I never thought someone like Alara could change my life," Liam said in one of the recordings. "I entered this as a game, but I ended up losing something far more important. My own dignity. She's not just someone special. She's someone who made me want to be better." The video continued with images of Liam visiting places from his past. The family restaurant where he had taken Alara, the house where he had grown up with his mother, and even a local shelter where he had recently begun to donate part of his immense fortune. In each location, Liam spoke candidly about what it all meant to him and how he wanted to stop being the man he had once been. When the video ended, Alara remained in stunned silence. Liam turned off the projector and turned to face her, visibly nervous. "I know this doesn't change what I did," he said, his voice trembling. "I know it doesn't erase the bet or all the harm I caused. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying. Not for you, not to win you back, but because I need to be a better man. And you taught me that." Alara looked at him, trying to process everything she had just seen and heard. She had expected excuses, justifications, even manipulations. But what Liam had shown her was profoundly different. It was an honest, raw confession that left him completely exposed. "Why did you do all this?" she asked finally, her voice softer than she expected. "Because I realized I've spent my entire life running," Liam responded, his voice filled with a newfound vulnerability. "Running from what I am, from what I lost, and from what I never dared to face. But you, Alara, you made me want to stop running. I don't want your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I'm not the same man you met." The silence that followed was heavy, but filled with a fragile possibility. Alara didn't know if she could trust Liam, but she also couldn't ignore the undeniable change she saw in him. There was something different, something genuinely authentic that made her want to believe. "This isn't something that can be fixed with words or videos, Liam," she said finally. "If you truly want to change, you'll have to prove it. Not to me, but to yourself." Liam nodded, accepting her words with a profound humility. "I know," he said, his voice firm. "And I will." Alara breathed deeply, looking at the night sky. She didn't know what would happen between them, but in that moment, something deep inside her told her that, perhaps, it was possible to start anew. Perhaps not everything was lost. The days that followed the encounter in the park were a silent test for both Liam and Alara. Elena had made it clear that it wouldn't be easy for Liam to regain her trust, but there was a subtle shift in her words, in the sincerity of his recent actions, that kept her mind constantly revolving around him. For his part, Liam was determined to prove he was a different man, not with empty promises, but with actions that spoke for themselves. One afternoon, while Alara worked diligently at the Daily Grind Bistro, she received an unexpected call from Sophia, one of her colleagues. "Alara, you have to come to the Central Plaza after your shift. I think there's something you need to see." Intrigued and a little disconcerted, Alara finished her shift and headed towards the plaza. Upon arriving, she saw a small group of people gathered around a tent. As she approached, she realized that Liam was at the center of everything, talking with a group of children and adults. He seemed to be organizing a community event, something that utterly didn't fit the image of the Liam she had known. There were tables laden with books, toys, and food, and Liam was personally distributing items while conversing with the attendees. Alara observed him from a distance, trying to process what she was seeing. It was the first time she had seen him so relaxed, so genuinely human. Finally, he saw her. For a moment, their eyes met, and Liam smiled. A sincere, open smile, free of arrogance. Alara hesitated, but something inside her compelled her to approach. "What are you doing here?" she asked, crossing her arms, though her tone was more curious than accusatory. Liam finished handing a toy to a child before turning to her. "I'm trying to give back a little of what I have to those who need it. This place was part of my childhood. My mother used to bring me here to donate toys at Christmas, and I thought it was time to resume that tradition." Alara looked at him, searching for any sign that this was just a performance to impress her. But what she saw was profoundly different. There were no cameras, no friends. No one was there to applaud him. Just Liam, surrounded by people who genuinely needed help. "And why now?" she asked, still with a certain caution. Liam sighed, taking a moment to respond. "Because I realized that everything I've done until now meant nothing. The money, the power, all of it is empty if you don't do something useful with it. And because you, Alara, you made me see how blind I've been." Liam's words took her by surprise. There was something in his voice, in the way he spoke, that seemed utterly authentic. Elena wasn't ready to trust him completely, but she couldn't ignore the change she was witnessing. "Well," she said finally, with a faint hint of sarcasm, "I suppose it's a good start." Liam smiled, understanding that those words, though small, meant more than she let on. "Do you want to help me? There's still a lot to do." Alara hesitated for an instant, but then nodded. "All right, but don't think this means everything is fixed between us." "I don't," he responded with a humble smile. "But I'm glad you're here." During the hours that followed, Alara worked side by side with Liam, distributing food and toys, and helping children choose books. It was an unexpectedly satisfying experience, and as she worked, she couldn't help but notice how much Liam had changed. He no longer seemed like the arrogant, superficial man she had known, but someone willing to listen, to learn, and to be better. At the end of the day, when everyone present had received their items, Liam and Alara sat on a nearby bench. They were tired, but there was also a strange sense of peace in the air, a quiet understanding. "Thanks for staying," Liam said, breaking the silence. "I didn't do it for you," Alara responded quickly. "I did it for those people." "I know," he said, nodding. "But it still means a lot to me." Alara looked at him for a moment before responding. "Liam, I still don't know if I can trust you, but I have to admit that today I saw something different." Liam nodded, accepting her words with a profound humility. "I don't expect you to trust me immediately, but I'll do my best to prove I'm not the man I was." Alara breathed deeply, looking at the plaza lights. She knew it wouldn't be easy to forget what had happened between them, but she also knew that something fundamental had changed. Perhaps, just perhaps, Liam was being sincere. "I suppose time will tell," she said finally, rising from the bench. Liam smiled, following her as she headed towards the exit of the plaza. Although the path was still uncertain, both knew they were taking the first step towards something new. And this time, there were no bets involved, only the profound possibility of a different future. Alara walked towards her apartment that night with a complex mix of emotions swirling within her. Seeing Liam in the plaza, genuinely surrounded by people he was helping, had disarmed part of the armor she had so carefully built. She didn't want to admit it, but the Liam she had encountered over the past few weeks was starkly different from the arrogant man who had entered her life on a cruel bet. Upon arriving home, she dropped her bag on the table and sank onto the sofa. Her mind kept replaying Liam's gaze, the sincerity in his gestures, the way he spoke with children and adults as if he truly cared. It was difficult to reconcile that image with the man who had humiliated her, but she couldn't ignore what she was witnessing. That night, as she tried to fall asleep, a part of her began to wonder if it was worth giving Liam a chance to prove his change. But another part, the one that remembered the sharp pain of discovering the bet, still resisted. Liam, for his part, spent the night wide awake, sitting in his living room, a cup of cold coffee in his hands. He mentally replayed every word, every look he had shared with Alara that afternoon. He had felt a spark of hope in her expression, an indication that perhaps she was starting to believe in his transformation. But he also knew that the wounds he had inflicted would not heal easily. The next day, he made a monumental decision. He knew that isolated actions were not enough. He needed to do something more, something that would demonstrate he was willing to completely change his way of life. He decided to close a dark chapter of his life and cut ties with the people who had led him to make such devastating mistakes. Arthur and the rest of Liam's old circle gathered that night at their usual exclusive club. As always, conversations revolved around business deals, conquests, and jokes that fueled their oversized egos. But this time, when Liam entered the room, his presence was not met with the usual smiles and camaraderie. His face was serious, his posture firmer than usual. "Liam, you finally deigned to appear," Arthur said with a mocking smile. "What's kept you so busy lately? Your little bet." Liam approached the table and stopped directly in front of Arthur. "That's over," he said, his voice cutting through the air, silencing everyone. "Over," Arthur repeated, frowning. "What are you talking about?" Liam took a deep breath before responding. "The bet was a mistake. This whole game was a mistake. I'm not going to be a part of this anymore." Arthur leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "And now you feel guilty? Come on, Liam, we've always done this. It's part of who we are." "Well, maybe I don't want to be that person anymore," Liam said with firmness, meeting Arthur's gaze. "I realized that everything we've done, this whole way of living, hasn't led me to anything good. I'm tired of this emptiness." "Is this because of Ilara?" Arthur asked with a mocking tone. "Did you actually fall in love? Please, Liam, you know how these things end." Liam looked him directly in the eyes. "Yes, it's because of her. Because she made me realize I'm better than this. And because she matters enough to me to change." The group fell silent, not knowing how to respond. Finally, Arthur shrugged. "Do what you want, but don't expect us to change." "I don't," Liam said, turning to leave. "But I also don't expect to be a part of this ever again." With those words, he walked out of the club, feeling for the first time in a very long time that he had left behind a heavy weight he had been carrying for years. That same night, Liam sent a message to Ilara. He didn't know if she would read it, but he needed to write it. "Ilara, I know my words aren't enough, but I wanted you to know that today I closed the door to many things that kept me from being who I want to be. I don't expect you to forgive me or to trust me immediately, but I do hope that one day you'll see that I'm changing. Thank you for showing me what truly matters. El." Ilara read the message on her phone screen. Her emotions were divided. Part of her still doubted his intentions, but another, deeper part, felt that Liam was speaking from the heart. She put her phone away without responding, knowing she needed more time to process everything that was happening. The following weeks were filled with small, consistent gestures from Liam. He didn't come looking for her directly anymore, but Ilara heard from others about his new activities. Donations to local causes, time dedicated to helping in the community, even efforts to reconcile with people he had hurt in the past. Each of those steps slowly chipped away at Ilara's defenses. Finally, one day, as she finished her shift at the Daily Grind Bistro, she saw Liam waiting outside. This time, he carried no flowers or gifts, just himself. "Ilara," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I know I've made mistakes, and I know you still have reasons not to trust me, but I'm here to tell you that I won't give up, no matter how long it takes. I want to prove to you that I'm a different man." Ilara looked at him, evaluating him carefully. She didn't respond immediately, but deep inside, she felt something she hadn't felt before. A spark of hope. "All right, Liam," she said finally. "Let's walk." And with those words, they both began a new path, one where the past wouldn't define the future, and where both would have the opportunity to build something genuine, step by step. What do you think is the true meaning of starting over in a story of redemption? And how will Liam's dedication truly prove his change to Ilara? Share your insights in the comments below. If this story of an earned second chance is touching your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the final, heartwarming chapters. For years had passed since that night on the porch, when Liam confessed his deep-seated fears and his desire to change. The small house still served as their beloved home, but much had changed, growing in unexpected ways. Alara looked at herself in the mirror, adjusting the gown of her graduation toga. Her university degree in business administration would be officially hers in a few hours. Her reflection showed a different woman from the young cafe worker who had arrived at Liam's life, with a small suitcase of belongings and a heart full of broken dreams. "You look beautiful," Liam said from the doorway, holding little Clara in his arms. The 3-year-old girl was a perfect mixture of both of them. Alara's expressive eyes and Liam's mischievous smile. "Mama Princess," Clara exclaimed, extending her tiny arms towards her. Alara took her in her arms and kissed her cheek. "Where's your brother?" "Finishing his science project," Liam responded. "He says it's a surprise for you." Gabriel, now 10 years old, had blossomed into a brilliant and sensitive boy. The problems at school had diminished over time, in part because they had decided to move him to an institution where he was valued for who he was, not for the rumors about his family. "Nervous for tomorrow?" Alara asked, as they descended the stairs together. "A little," Liam admitted. The next day would mark his official return to Thorn Holdings, not as president, but as a respected member of the board of directors. After years away, he had been invited back by the very partners who had once supported his departure. "You'll prove the same thing you've proven these past few years," Alara assured him, "that you're more than just a name." The past few years hadn't been easy. Liam had invested part of his personal fortune in his own independent projects, some spectacularly successful, others less so. But he had found a profound new purpose, supporting social ventures that generated a real impact in vulnerable communities, like Alara's hometown. "I finished," Gabriel announced, emerging from his room with a meticulously crafted model in his hands. It was a detailed representation of a neighborhood similar to Alara's village, complete with small houses, a school, and a vibrant community center. "It's my project on sustainable development. I told my teacher about Daddy's work with the cooperatives, and about how Mama wants to help her village." Alara felt a lump in her throat. Gabriel had perfectly captured the essence of what they were trying to build together. The graduation ceremony was simple but deeply significant. When Alara Ramos's name was called, Liam and the children applauded with such infectious enthusiasm that several attendees turned to look at them. Alara didn't care. Her family was their proud real. Upon leaving, they were met with a surprise. Dona Emilia waited by an elegant black car. Her relationship with Liam's mother had been practically non-existent for years. Dona Emilia extended a bouquet of flowers towards Alara. "Congratulations," she said, her tone formal, but tinged with a grudging respect. "Thank you for coming," Alara responded, accepting the flowers with a cautious smile. "Grandma," Gabriel greeted politely, but without the infectious enthusiasm he showed with his other grandparents, Alara's parents, who had traveled from their village for the occasion. Dona Emilia observed little Clara, who hid behind her father's leg. The child was undeniably a thorn, with that natural poise that seemed to come in the family's genes. "She looks like you," Emilia said finally, addressing Liam. "She has her mother's character," he responded, a protective hand resting on Clara's shoulder. The tension was palpable, but there was also something new, something that felt like a silent truce. Dona Emilia would never explicitly admit she had been wrong, but her presence there was an undeniable acknowledgement that life continued, with or without her full approval. "There's a place for you tomorrow in the board meeting," Dona Emilia said before leaving. "And for Alara too, if she's interested. The foundation needs a director with field experience." Liam and Alara exchanged surprised glances. It was the closest thing to an apology they would ever get. That night, the family dined in the garden, under the stars. Alara's parents told stories from their youth, while the children listened, fascinated. It was a beautiful blend of worlds that, against all odds, had found harmony. "Will you accept the position at the foundation?" Liam asked when they were finally alone. Alara contemplated the question. "I will, but on my terms. I want to focus on projects that truly matter, not just on charity for show." Liam smiled. Alara's fierce determination was one of the many things he loved about her. I wouldn't expect anything less. The next day, Liam entered the Thorn Holdings boardroom for the first time in 4 years. Most of the faces were new, but the essence of the place remained the same. Power, money, influence. Welcome back, Liam, greeted the current president, an old associate of his father's. Liam nodded. Thank you for the invitation, but before we begin, I'd like to present a proposal to redirect some of our funds towards sustainable developments in rural communities. Some executives exchanged skeptical glances. Others seemed genuinely interested. And to present the project, Liam continued, I've invited the new director of the Thorn Foundation, Alara Ramos. When Alara entered the room, composed in her professional suit and with her presentation ready, some of the older executives recognized her. She was the same young woman who, years ago, had served coffee at the Thorn's social gatherings. But now, as she spoke with confidence about development projects, impact statistics, and social return on investment, it was impossible not to see her for what she truly was. A brilliant, passionate woman determined to change the world in her own unique way. At the end of the meeting, Donna Emilia approached Liam. Your wife is impressive, she admitted with some difficulty. I know, he responded, not hiding his pride. That afternoon, upon picking up the children from school, Liam and Alara felt as if they had come full circle. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. They knew there would be more challenges, more doubtful glances, more battles to fight. But as they watched Gabriel help his little sister into the car, as they listened to their laughter mingle in the afternoon air, they knew with certainty that every sacrifice had been worth it. The love they had built together, day after day, decision after decision, was stronger than any inheritance or name. It was real, imperfect, and completely theirs. Liam's office at Thorn Holdings had a privileged view of the bustling city. From the 30th floor, buildings seemed like intricate models and people, tiny ants in perpetual motion. But his attention wasn't on the view, but on the speech he was preparing for that night's event. 2 more years had passed. Gabriel had just turned 12 and Clara, 5. The company was celebrating its 75th anniversary with a charity gala, and Liam had been invited to give the main address, a powerful sign that his return to the corporate world was complete, though entirely on his own terms. A soft knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. Come in, he said, looking up. Gabriel entered, taller than Liam remembered seeing him just last week, as if he grew with every blink. Mama says it's time to go if we want to pick up Clara from her ballet class, the boy announced. Liam smiled. His son now spoke with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who he was and where he came from. The days of teasing had been left behind, replaced by genuine friendships and the hard-won respect Gabriel had earned on his own merits. Tell her I'll be down in 5 minutes, he responded, putting away his speech. Nervous for tonight? Gabriel shrugged with a smile. A little, but Clara is more nervous. She thinks she's going to trip in her new dress. Liam laughed. His little girl was just as much of a perfectionist as he was. In the parking lot, Alara waited by the family car, not a luxurious vehicle like he used to drive, but a practical SUV where the 4 of them and all the school projects, sports equipment, and dolls that made up their daily lives fit comfortably. Ready to be the star of the night? Alara asked when Liam approached to kiss her. You'll be the star, he responded. I'm just the guy giving the boring speech. The event was held at the very same hotel where, years ago, Liam had organized that fateful brunch where Gabriel had pointed to Alara. The profound irony was not lost on them. The Ramos Thorn family arrived discreetly, without the pomp that once characterized Liam's entrances at these exclusive events. Clara, beautiful in her sky-blue dress, took Gabriel's hand, who guided her with the infinite patience of a proud older brother. Look at them, Alara whispered to Liam. They're the best thing we've done together. Liam nodded, emotional. His children represented everything he valued now. Authenticity, kindness, strength. The ballroom was filled with familiar and new faces. Donna Sofia, now almost 80, chatted with old partners at a main table. When she saw her son and his family arrive, she did something that surprised everyone. She stood and walked towards them. "My grandchildren look beautiful tonight," she said with a strained but genuine smile. Clara, overcoming her initial shyness, hugged her grandmother. "Grandma, look at my new dress." Donna Sofia seemed to melt a little at the child's enthusiasm. Over the years, their relationship had improved. It wasn't perfect, it never would be, but they had found a neutral ground in their shared love for the children. "There's a place for you tomorrow in the board meeting," Donna Sofia said before leaving. "And for Ilara too, if she's interested. The foundation needs a director with field experience." Liam and Ilara exchanged glances of surprise. It was the closest thing to an apology they would ever get. When the time came for the speech, Liam walked to the podium without the nerves that might once have consumed him in similar situations. He no longer had anything to prove, no one to impress. "Good evening," he began. 75 years ago, my grandfather founded this company with a simple vision: to build buildings that would last for generations. What he didn't know was that he was building much more. A legacy, a responsibility, a family story. He paused, searching for Ilara's eyes among the audience. She smiled at him, giving him strength as she always did. "For years, I believed my duty was simply to maintain that legacy, to preserve it intact, like a relic in a display case. But then," his voice softened, "then I met someone who taught me that true legacies are not inherited. They are built, day by day, decision by decision, sacrifice by sacrifice." From her table, Ilara held back tears. Gabriel took her hand and squeezed it gently. "This company has evolved," Liam continued. "We no longer just build buildings. We build communities, we create opportunities, and above all, we try to build a better world for future generations." As he finished his speech, the applause was warm and genuine. But for Liam, the true triumph was in the bright eyes of his children, in Ilara's proud smile. Later, during dinner, Liam noticed that Gabriel was unusually quiet. "Everything okay, champ?" he asked, leaning towards him. "Yes," the boy replied. "I was just thinking. Remember when we lived in the big mansion before Ilara? Of course. We were richer then, right? We had more stuff." Liam looked at his son, intrigued by the direction of his thoughts. "Yes, we had more things." Gabriel nodded thoughtfully. "But we weren't happy like we are now." Liam's heart swelled with pride and emotion. His son had understood the most valuable lesson of all, one that had taken him 40 years to learn. At the end of the night, when they returned home, their modest but love-filled home, Liam helped put Clara to bed while Ilara reviewed Gabriel's science project. When they finally reunited in the kitchen, Ilara prepared 2 cups of tea, a simple routine they had established years ago. "It was a good day, wasn't it?" Liam asked, taking her hand across the table. Ilara didn't answer with words. She just looked at him, and in that gaze was everything. The journey traveled, the battles won and lost, the fears overcome, the joys shared, and, above all, the love built day by day, brick by brick, like the most valuable of legacies. Did the story of Liam and Ilara move you? This love that defied prejudice and showed us that true feelings are built with daily decisions, sacrifices, and courage? A family that discovered happiness isn't found in marble mansions, but in shared laughter around a simple table? Tell us what part touched your heart and from what country you are watching this video. Don't forget to like, share with someone special who needs to remember that true love breaks barriers, and subscribe for more stories that will make you believe in happy endings earned day by day.